What's going on YouTube? Today, taking a look at a McNees PM Mac 2. As you can see, super common, or not super common, super popular knife I should say, in a number of different patterns. And this particular one is a Shockwave Blue. And before we get started, please note I did cut off the corner of my finger here with a different knife, trying to learn how to front flip. So today, and possibly for the next few videos, we may actually have some thumb stud videos, just simply because I can't tab open Shirogorov's right now. So apologies for that, but bear with me while my body heals itself slowly and without any remorse. So anyway, so as you guys know, these are pretty casual conversations. Hopefully you enjoy them, and we'll kind of just kind of review the knife, talk about it, and kind of go over some of the details. So as I kind of alluded to, this is the PM Mac 2, and this guy, super common in this kind of anodized finish. I believe they've done some in some plain Janes. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure on that one, but they are throwing a lot of patterns on the handles and then obviously anodizing them. So this particular one is the Shockwave, I believe they call it, which has that cool kind of little shockwavy ball look to it, as opposed to, I would say, the Oz Roosevelt kind of also does a cool shockwavy pattern as well, but they don't start it in the center of the handle like that. They start it kind of at the center of the pivot. So you can kind of see, it's just a popular, kind of cool look, which I'm totally cool with. This particular one is a Magnacut Blade, and it is a hollow grind. So a hollow grind meaning that it's not a flat grind from the edge to the top here. It's kind of indented a little bit. And it's kind of hard to feel, or sorry, I shouldn't say it. It's easier to feel than it is to show this, but you can kind of definitely feel that it's a hollow grind. So in terms of this knife here, let's grab a tape measure and do some comparables. One of the things with this particular knife is that it's a lot of blade for the overall length, and that's a continuous feeling amongst a lot of people talking about it. So 7 3/4 OAL, okay, with a 3.5-inch sharpened blade, so a little bit longer actually, maybe 3 5/8 to maybe even 3 3/4, depending on how you want to measure it. But super long blade for the size of the overall length. So they've made really good use of space. Now, is that a good thing, or is that something that could leave some things to the imagination? We'll find out. So let's first of all talk about the blade. So it is that Magnacut. It's got that cool made in USA kind of. I think it's like a laser engraving on it. And then behind the thumb stud there, Magnacut is written, which looks real sharp. My biggest problem with this knife traditionally is the thumb stud itself. It was actually a very flat thumb stud, and now it's got a little rounding to it. I'd like to see more of almost like a volcano style to it, if that makes sense. Just a little more rounded on the stud. But as you can kind of see, it's not bad. Price-wise, these guys, I think, are in the $600 range US, which is, a very competitive category of kind of that mid-tech production level knives, which is exactly what this knife is. Handle details, obviously it's all titanium, which is what you'd expect. The pocket clip, pretty simple, nothing too crazy to it. I'm not exactly a huge fan of this pocket clip, but then again, I have seen on their Instagram they're working on machining their own pocket clip. So I'm sure that's a detail they're aware of. We've got a nice little lanyard hole in the back here. I'm not a big lanyard hole guy, but for the people that want it, it is there, which is certainly cool. The back spacers here as well, or the little barrels here, barrel spacers, they're matching, which is a nice little detail. They're matching the thumb stud, on the blade as well, which is a nice little touch, nice little feature. If we go into the lock bar here, we are missing a lock bar insert, which is kind of frustrating at this price point. A lot of the competitors are doing that. Do we have an over travel? Nope, no over travel stop as well, which, you know, just one of those little details. Remember, a lot of the Chris Reeves don't have that, and the way they get around that is by putting this pocket clip over top of this here. And when we talk about an over travel stop, what we're saying is that when we essentially push out this frame lock, you know, it can keep going. And in over travel, there's a couple ways of doing it, but you know, a lot of the times they'll change the lock bar interface there and kind of machine it so that it can't push back and travel over. Or some guys will take this hardware and overhang it so that this can't necessarily push out either. But yeah, no, it's a solid design, but it's very simple, and you know, we're kind of in that day and age where that is an expectation, unfortunately. But you know what? It's you know, the difference between a knife that you know, lasts 30 years and 40. Like, let's be honest, I don't know too many people who are going to wear out a titanium handle and use a knife so much so that that's going to become an issue, which is fine. Feel of it, it runs on bearings, and that's super obvious. It fires out nice and easy, even with a finger missing like mine. Action is quite drop shutty, and I'll try to zoom this guy out here so that we can kind of get an idea here. But so pull that, and let's push this right up. You can see the angle of the camera. Yeah, it's a heavy blade, doesn't take much. Hopefully that sounds pretty nice. Yep, there you go. Comes out easily. Ergonomic wise, you've got some nice jimping up here above the thumb studs. And I'll be honest, like this, some people, you know, remember earlier we were talking about how, you know, this is a lot of knife for a small kind of overall profile. And here's kind of the difference for me, okay? So when I'm holding this, you can kind of see I'm a bigger guy, and I just fit on this handle. And I would even say so much so that if you look at the curving of the handle, you can see there's a natural spot for your fingers to rest, right? And then this kind of ergonomic here is like, okay, that is where the rest of your fingers are supposed to go. And then this part here, where it kind of angles off to the flat part, that is the expectation that you're not going to have anything on there, in my opinion. Okay, most knife companies, you're not going to angle this that way so that you can split your pinky finger and your ring finger over that little gap. That doesn't make sense to me. You would want it so that your pinky rests kind of in that little dip there, and that way you get a better purchase on the knife. For me, if I'm not trying to cut myself here like that, I'm actually kind of pushing over top of that. So minor thing for me. And remember, I'm an XL size glove, and this is right at that limit that you know, it's a smaller handle, which is not a bad thing. It's just letting you guys know. Now you know, to give you an idea, like I had the Roosevelt out earlier, if we compare that, this is a smaller knife, okay? And you look at how they've done the handle, very flat to the back, and you don't have to roll over any edges on the back. And then the extra cutout here below the hardware, I just find adds that extra little bit. So if I hold the Rosie, right, with my front finger that's missing tips, like, look how much extra room I have on the Rosie. This is a smaller knife. This is, to me, like, I understand why people love these. It's like ergonomic perfection. You know, the McNees certainly has the ability to change a couple details. They don't have to, but this is just my suggestion. You know, I would like to see a couple little things updated below that pivot, and then maybe if they want to round that out, flatten the back, I think that would help, because I just don't see why the point of this little spot there. Just my opinion. Hardware wise, without looking, I'm assuming it's T8. It looks pretty, yeah, it's probably T8 and probably all around. It looks T80. What do you guys think? If it's 6, 8, or 10, does it really matter? It's Torx, it's fine. As long as it's not 6, let's be honest. Grind on the blade. Looks to be well done. Nice and consistent, which is kind of what you'd expect at this price point, obviously. Nice knife. As I talked about, the jimping's definitely useful. There is a little baby choil here to help with sharpening things, which is awesome. It's kind of hidden a little bit. You're getting a lot of blade. This is the thing with this knife. You're getting a ton of blade, you know, for that size. And it's definitely heavy, right? It's a thick blade stock, as you can kind of see here. But they've made good use of it, which is awesome. Comparables in this kind of size-wise, well, you know, you're probably looking at Hinderers, right? So there's your Eclipse, you know, or Jurassic. It's probably more Jurassic-y to me, but do I have a Jurassic here? I have a Jurassic. So let's get rid of that. You know, it's probably Hindery-esque, so Magnacut. 425 versus 550 or 600 or so. So remember, you're not getting a tie scale in this. So you're going to immediately spend $200 more to get that. The Magnacut flipper tab, very similar size-wise, and remember the angle of the camera as well. You're probably looking at you know, like a something obscene J-Cape 3.5. Another very comparable knife size-wise. And you can kind of see, once again, the angling of the back. They've kind of changed it a little bit and moved the ergos up a little bit, but they're also using a flipper tab. Let's see, what else would we compare? I wouldn't really compare it with a Shiro, just because it's not really in that category. I might look at comparing it with a Koenig. This one is also up on the site. Much bigger knife. But once again, you can look at the ergonomics of the back of the handle. Very similar size-wise on the blade, in terms of usable blade. And then, just for, you know, a lot of people, for shits and giggles, Sebenza, super common knife, and there it is compared with a large Sebenza. So just to kind of give you an idea on size, and once again, you look at the back of this, and how it's nice and flat, and then rounds off versus rounds out, right? So there we go. There's your Sebenza, and I wouldn't, you know what? Sure, why not? I'll do it. I'm doing it, guys. There's a Neon. So this to me is, I wouldn't even put it in the same class as a Neon. Just because, like, you look at the blade length, they're two very different styles. One's a lot more pokey, the other's a lot more, like, worky. So worky being nice flat versus the curved. Handle-wise, to me, Shirgorovs are like my gold standard of what I like a knife to feel like, and lo and behold, just look at the profile on it. Much thinner knife, and this does not do any justice to the width or size in hand. Like, that should do a number if you compare the two. The Mac 2 is a much beefier feeling knife. It's more of a work knife to me than something you're going to throw in a suit jacket, and or a pair of, you know, you're going to throw this in a pair of jeans. I don't know if I'd want to throw it in a pair of, like, NBA shorts or workout pants, because you're probably going to be, you know, looking a little silly as it moves around. And that's perfectly fine. It's just more of a work knife. It's less, I don't want to say this, but it to me is a less refined knife, in that it's more heavy duty than it is about, it's more heavy duty and practicality, more so than it is about kind of refinement, in my opinion. And they are trying, obviously, to kind of dress it up a little bit with some of the patterns. But let's be honest, with a blade stock that thick, with that grind, with the heavy thumb studs, you know, this knife's meant to be used. And a lot of guys use it very successfully. And that's why I just kind of say, you know, it's very hindery. I don't know if I necessarily say it's SNGE. It's, I guess it could be, but it's just a different knife. Looking at it now, like if you look at that thumb stud as well, look where it is in comparison to the blade. That's not necessarily a good thing. But then again, you know, I don't know too many guys with a blade this tall who are going to cut straight down and have problems with that thumb stud. Now, I'd love to hear in the comments if anybody's ever, or if McNees has made a flipper of this, because that would be an interesting concept. I don't know if they have. That would be cool. Or even this new thing, the kickstop. Like, I see some of these, actually, you know what? Let's compare it against that. That'd be perfect. The Rendencian 229. If I can dig that up here, it's very similar to that. Very McNeesy. Like I like to, I've had a few friends now take a look at some of the stuff, and I actually use the term, it's very McNeesy on a lot of knives for feel when I refer to the J-Cape, because it's just so McNeesy. Just the fit and finish of it, the feel, it's, for made in the US, like, honestly, it's just a very well done version of a couple of these knives. But comparing the two, we can kind of get a cut. Like here's the vibe I would kind of compare this knife with. These are obviously, these two are made overseas by Riyadh, I believe, made in US on the McNees. And you know, I imagine that if you emailed McNees and you said, look, these are the problems I'm having or whatever, you get things sorted out ASAP. The customer service is incredible. You know, the owner of it just seems like one of those guys who gets it and is about his customers and makes a great product and just cares about the end users. If you had a problem with this, you know, there's only so much something obscene is going to be able to do, I imagine, if there is any issues. And that's not a bad thing, but it's just a different level of customer service, so that when you are buying a Chinese knife compared to a North American knife, you are going to get two different things. But this is kind of what I'm saying. You know, the Rendencian's a nice thick blade. A lot of people know that. It's even thicker than the McNees, but it's kind of cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways. McNees feels a lot more refined than the Rendencian. Going back to the refinement conversation. What else here that we can talk about here? So we talked about the Magnacut, we've talked about the ergonomics. Fits pretty decent in hand other than my little pinky, but I've got XL hands. We talked about the hardware. We talked about the clip, which they're adjusting now, I believe. We're in prototyping stages. Super easy knife to take apart. Just a couple screws and it'll come apart super easy. I'm not too sure. Are these... they look like they are screwed into the handle. That is what it is. A couple easy screws on the pocket clip. Let's see, milling on the inside. This one is milled out a little bit, and I don't know if the last one that I had was or not. I'm not too sure. That's a good question. But I'm going to grab my trusty little light here and kind of shoot this inside. And I don't know if the camera's going to pick up on any of that. But yeah, you should be able to see some of that inside there. So definitely milled to save a little weight. It's not a heavy knife. It feels lighter than it probably is. But yeah, that's awesome. So they've done their homework on taking some material out of the inside of that to you know, save some people some extra weight in their pocket, which is awesome. But yeah, guys, that's kind of the overall feel and fit and sounds, I guess, of the McNees Mac 2 in hand. Super great knife. It's definitely able to cut off parts of your finger. Not that I would know. But yeah, it's a great looking knife. Really impressed with this one. I think, you know, I get the hype why they're selling like hotcakes. They're just a solid design, well made, US made. definitely follow McNees on Instagram too, because the guy's a riot. You know, he lifts weights and, you know, talks a lot of cool stuff, and shows the process of how they make it and in-house and all that. It's just it just seems like a guy you'd want to have a beer with, have some laughs with, and I'm sure he's got some stories. Yeah. So there you go. That's the knife. If you have any questions, guys, leave them below. Otherwise, like, subscribe, share. Let me know how I'm doing this. I'm not necessarily a YouTuber here, so I'm just trying to do these in a nice, easy conversation. Oh, I should have probably showed centering's bang on. I'm just trying to do this as a nice, easy conversation, like I'd be having at coffee shop or whatever, and just showing you a knife, seeing, feel it, make the sounds. I don't know if I even did that. Cool sound, huh? Wish I could do with my other finger. That sounds great. So there you go. That's the McNees Mac 2. Thanks for stopping by, guys. And yeah, throw a like on the video. And if you have any questions, leave them below. I get every single one of them and I read them all. All right. Hopefully next time my Band-Aid's a little different. Cheers.